Investigative reporter Robert Riggs with the True Crime Reporter podcast here with former federal prosecutor Bill Johnston. We're talking crime, one thing you should know about psychopaths. And Bill, you've looked them straight in the eye.
Well, the serial killer, Kenneth McDuff, is to me the textbook psychopath. He had no empathy, no concern for anyone else. He saw females as prey to be hunted. He would, like a shark, if he could, he would circle, get near them, and grab them, snatch them like a chicken, as he said. But he had no conscience. It didn't bother him to talk about it because it didn't bother him to do it. And his eyes were dead. That's the way I saw him anyway.
Well, I always said he had eyes like a shark, and he literally was the great white shark of serial killers. But he's the extreme. We've got psychopaths that are CEOs, teachers, they're in business. They're all around you. You're surrounded by psychopaths.
You know, there's sort of a checklist. You don't want to just categorize people, but it's helpful. Right. There's a bit of a checklist, and down the checklist fit so many people. Many are very successful. It's like they used to talk about functioning alcoholics. There are functioning psychopaths.
Yes.
And there are those that have run companies ruthlessly, but ethically enough to get by, almost criminally, but not quite a crime. And we see it in every, like you said, in almost every profession. Lawyers, I know a number of lawyers that I believe are probably psychopaths, but it is psychopaths are all about us and around us, and they don't care about us, but they will use us, and they will manipulate us.
So one thing we know is that they don't know fear. They have no sense of fear, and it is all about them, and they really know how to manipulate people.
They do, and they know how to use intimidation and fear. They can almost smell it. If they have someone that they're trying to manipulate, psychologists tell us, and psychiatrists as well, tell us that when they detect fear, it's almost like herding cattle or something. They'll detect it on one side and force it the other way, detect it here and force it the other way until they get what they want, until they drive them off a cliff if they have to. That's right.
And they literally can wreak havoc in some organizations and some businesses and in marriages and relationships.
That's right. You hear after relationships sometimes are over that one part or the other says, I was manipulated the whole time. I didn't realize it. I was in it. But this guy was controlling every move I made. And I was in fear. I just didn't realize it. I was in the middle of it. That's right.
That's our segment from True Crime Reporter. Crime, one thing you should know about psychopaths. You're surrounded by them. Good luck. How does a young couple's cross-country road trip that plays out on social media end up in murder? Hello, I'm Robert Riggs here with my co-host of the True Crime Reporter podcast, former federal prosecutor Bill Johnston, with what we call a True Crime Reporter Confidential, a police procedural, and we're going to kind of break down some of this case based on our experience, me as an investigative reporter, Bill as a prosecutor. So, Bill, sadly, the remains of Gabby Petito were found. It's been ruled a homicide, and her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, is, quote, a person of interest. Now, in the world you're in, what does that mean?
Well, that means that logic and common sense tells us and tells investigators that this guy is the last one seen with her. There were issues and problems that led up to this time frame that we know from local police took place. So without saying it, they're saying this is our suspect, and we believe he most likely did it. But we're not ready to get a warrant. We're not ready to, proclaim every detail of the case out there in the public domain.
Well, they do have to have probable cause for the warrant. I would think maybe they would get some of that either from the autopsy on her, or, of course, they took away boxes from his parents' home.
I would think, too, that there's details in the autopsy that we don't know and the public will not be told for some time. And they're doing that, if they can keep it confidential, they're doing that so that anyone who confesses to this or provides evidence, the law enforcement will know whether or not that's accurate. For instance, if some nut somewhere wants to confess to this and says, oh, she was shot, and the autopsy clearly shows, let's say, she wasn't. That way they know what the truth is about the details, and they can hold that to compare it to any confession.
So we're hearing from other reports and people that witness things that it indicates, and her friends, it indicates the boyfriend, Brian, was controlling. If we find that she was strangled, which is very personal, I mean, that's kind of what I'm expecting they'll find.
Of course, we have just a glimpse into this guy's personality and his nature, but a glimpse seems to indicate that, yes, he was controlling. And what do we mean by that? Some people, people manipulate each other all the time, but some people in the violent world want to control a relationship, and they want to control it to the point to where they, in their minds, justify even killing the person. In other words, I'll get what I want, and if I have to kill to get it, that's what I'll do. It's just part of the control. And in that vein, in that way, sometimes we see suffocation, strangulation, or suffocation with a pillow or something, or strangulation as a last act of control. In other words, you shut up. You're not uttering one more word. You're not taking one more breath. Sometimes that's where it goes, and that is the ultimate last act of control. You snuff someone out. You quite literally snuff them out, and you go on. And that, again, yeah, I'm with you. I think that may well be what happened. We'll see. The sad truth of life is that there's a lot of people that have a job they don't want, but they need it. And I think that was Melissa Northrup. She struggled. Her family struggled financially. And so she had the job that nobody wanted, which is working in a convenience store in the middle of the night, right off an interstate highway, which under any circumstances is dangerous. You may have a guy out there killing tonight. It's not safe to be around him. He'll kill you.